Hi, this is my final presentation for the Running Errands Java game. I am Brittany Huntington, and I was working alone for the last few weeks. To start off, static versus non-static variables. Basically, there's two types of variables in Java. They're static and non-static. A static variable has the word static in front of it, so it's really easy to tell which ones are static. And then a non-static variable doesn't have the word static in front of it. It can be anything from like an int to a double, a string. And so a static variable is associated with the class, and it has only one copy per class, but not for each object. An instance of the class does not have a static variable. Memory is allocated when the class is loaded at runtime. Non-static variables will copy each per object. Each instance of the class will have one copy of non-static variables. Instance variables are allocated at compile time, and a static variable is shared among the instances of a class when a non-static variable is specific to a single instance of that class. So basically, if a non-static variable is needed, you will need to have per object, per function, not just per class. And the memory happens at compile time, so when the whole project is run rather than right when the file is run. So here's an example of a static variable in my program. As you can see, it says static, which is the main indicator of a static variable. And the start existing game is not going to return anything because it's void, but this is needed just one time in the whole function. And here's an example of a non-static variable. This is a double, and it's a paycheck amount, and it is used many times in it. And also, it's changed many times. So for here, it starts out as 0, but then if you're a janitor, you get so much because the wage will be different. So moving on to arrays. Arrays are lists in Java and any other program, and they are ways to keep things in order, but there are 3 different types of lists in Java, and that is the array list, and the enum. So an array in Java is a dynamically created object that serves as a container to hold constant numbers of values of the same type. By declaring an array, memory space is allocated for values of a particular type. Arrays are fixed in length. So the arrays are fixed in length, so if you need 10 numbers to your list, then that's it that you can have in that array. You can't change your mind halfway through because that's just not how arrays work. So here's an example of an array. Arrays are defined with those little brackets, and they have a length to them, and you list, they're listed, and when people use the .length, that's asking how long your list is. So an array list is a more dynamic way of writing an array, and they're not fixed in length. So if you decide that you don't need 57 in your list anymore, then you can take it off. But then if you want to add 73, you can. And that's the good thing about array lists, is they're dynamic and changes as needed. The enum, it's a list of constants. It's a predefined list of values which do not represent numeric or textual data. So here's an example of an enum in my program, and it's talking about the scene type. All of these are different types of scenes that I have in my game. So when you go to the pizza parlor, it tells you the scene. When you go to the library, it tells you the scene. But this is just so that, I can have those laid aside to use later. For statements with arrays. For statements is a good way to use an array because it checks to see things that the user might input and checks them with what's in your array. So it provides a compact way to iterate over a range of values. It's not like a huge block of code. It's just a little tiny line that you put the things in that you need, and it tests the certain things in the list. And it's basically a loop. It can go on forever, but it usually won't. So here's an example of a for loop. For, it's checking to see these rows, because this is my number of columns, number of rows, they're arrays, and it just counts on the rows, and it gets the location, it sets the column, sets the row, sets visited, and then it figures out what the location that the user is going to be at. A try-catch block is a way to find a runtime error in a program. It basically does what its name is it tries something and then catches something. The try block is a block of code which exceptions occur, and the catch block catches and handles the try block exception. So they go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. And here's an example of a try catch in my program. This is in the main function. It tries to find the end file. It's for the user input, and then it spits out the message and the cause. So it tests the exceptions and runtime errors. So for character stream class versus byte stream class, a character stream is a way of accessing a file sequentially. So the whole file is accessed when you use a character stream class, but a byte stream class, as its name says, is accessed byte by byte, so little by little, and it is better to use a character stream when using a Unicode file because it finds the characters rather than bytes, and it just doesn't work on byte streams to use for text files. So here's an example of my character stream. It gets the input of where the file should be saved, and it saves it. So that's the end of my presentation, and I'm going to show you my game that I was. Okay, so while my game isn't a fully functioning game, it would have been a great game, but with the group issues, it just didn't happen. So you enter your name, and first it has the welcome here, and it tells you to have fun playing, and then it says welcome to the game, and then there's the main menu. You can start a new game, get and start save game, get help on how to play the game, save the game, and quit. And so we can start a new game. I'll say creating new game. We can start a save game, and we just enter the file where the game is to be saved, get help, and save the game, and quit. And then if I enter any other character, it'll say invalid, try again. I don't know what happened recently, but I had to go through and comment out the actual starting a new game because something was going on with the main menu and it would just go on forever and I couldn't figure it out. So it didn't have an error or anything, it would just go on forever. So that's why it's like that, but it used to at one time go into all of these amazing views that I made. But that's my game. I learned a lot this semester, and I'm glad I was able to take the class. So thanks for an awesome semester.